Now, thirdly, we can ask ourselves, is leadership, is management, is your job really about planning, about coordinating, about organizing, and about controlling? And you probably guessed from me posing the question in such a way that the answer is most likely no. Well, this again is something that I learned from Henry Mintzberg a few years ago when I read his wonderful book Managing, and also when I was reflecting on my own practice as a manager occasionally. And the point is that most of us managing today, our life is about being interrupted a lot. Actually, researchers found out that a typical manager spends a maximum of 29 to 30 minutes on an activity before he or she has to switch to doing something else. Let me give you an example. Typical working day probably starts by you checking your email on your smartphone. You do this for a while and then you realize, oh my God, the meeting is going to start. So you go to your meeting where you meet members of your team. And you're talking for about 10 minutes and then suddenly someone knocks on the door and says, Joseph, I just want to tell you that you have this client waiting. He's a bit early. What should I do with him? So you tell your colleague or your secretary what he or she has to do, and then switch, you go back to your meeting. Maybe the meeting lasts another 10 to 15 minutes, but before the end of the meeting, you get a blip on your smartphone. What do? You probably check it briefly. You notice, oh, it's not important. My kids got stuck in traffic or something, not important. But again, you were interrupted. Then you put your attention to the meeting. After the meeting, you do something else. And again, your whole day is made up from doing one activity, being interrupted, and then learning how to switch to do your next activity. And that's also one reason why we think that Leadership Tango is so useful, because you're continuously learning how to make that switch between leading, following, stopping, continuing, all those flexible, very flexible activities. Well, just to repeat it one more time, Leadership Tango is a leadership course. It's not a dance class. It's about doing some simple movements that everyone can do, especially, men who think they have two left legs. Well, also you can do this. And yes, we use the music of Argentinian tango. Now, previously we discussed briefly leadership theory. And right now I'd like to go into the theory of multiple intelligences. This is our brain, and well, there's lots of interesting ideas about our brain, and one of the ideas was, and I'm talking about 150 years ago, a bunch of professors sat together in a room and they said, let's create an intelligence test. Okay, great. Well, what shall we do? Well, we will create a test, and basically we are the benchmark. So we are the really super intelligent people. We create a test, and everybody is sort of like us, with high cognitive intelligence or high mathematical intelligence. We call them intelligent, like us, and everybody else we call stupid. Now, you probably hear the problem with that theory. Sadly enough, in most high schools in the world, in most universities in the world, still there's a very, very narrow sense of intelligence. And basically the idea is the only intelligent ones are university professors. Luckily there have been educators also all over history who had a different view on intelligence and on human development. I will not mention all of them, just one, and one of these people is Howard Gardner from Harvard and from MIT, and he actually said humans are gifted with more than just cognitive or mathematical intelligences. There is, for example, something called musical intelligence. I mean, some people really have a sense of rhythm and a sense of something going right with a refrain or not, and others just don't. Some people have spatial intelligence. I mean, I want an architect or an engineer to have a sense of space so that they create the kind of house or bridge that functions. There are people with excellent interpersonal intelligence. They're very valuable. They're the ones who actually can easily communicate with you, be good negotiators, or be good nurses, or be good physicians, etc., etc., etc. I will not go into detail, but the point is there is more than one intelligence. And with Leadership Tango, we're actually addressing several of those. You can read this slide yourself, but here are some rather famous people. And if we had believed in standard intelligence tests, or if we had believed their own teachers, these people would probably never have made it in life. But they did. So, multiple intelligences. This is the same slide as 2 slides before, just a little bit different drawing. It also indicates that Howard Gardner multiple intelligences are growing. It went, I think, from 6 to 8, and now we're already at 9. But the point being that to be a well-formed human, you need to develop those multiple intelligences. So in the Leadership Tango course, yes, we will work on cognition. So we'll take leadership theory. We may even do a test with you. Secondly, we'll work on your musical intelligence, because you'll have to move to some music. We will work on interpersonal skills, because you will be together with another person, and you will either lead them or you will follow them, and that according to a particular music and to a particular exercise. So there's also kinesthetic intelligence involved. You know, a sense of your body. You know, do I know how I work, how I function? There will be spatial intelligence, because when we're 40 people in the same room and we're doing some simple movements, you want to make sure you don't bump into each other. And then we will also work on what is called intrapersonal intelligence. By that we mean reflection, knowing yourself. Very often we will stop a Leadership Tango exercise and discuss with each other, what does this mean about leadership? What does this mean about followership? What kind of follower am I? What kind of follower am I related to this particular leader or to this particular context? So all of those things create a very great sense of awareness of your own behavior. And we have noticed, I mean, we've been running Leadership Tango for several years without calling it that way. And we've noticed that people who only followed it maybe for an hour, 7 years later, they still remember the course because it stuck to them. They started to ask themselves questions. And of course, with those questions, you can continue and develop your leadership style in everyday life.